Welcome to Not Only Connect. I'm definitely not Victoria Corin Mitchell, but we will be playing an Only Connect style game. Ed, please pick an Egyptian hieroglyph.
I have Horus, please, since I'm a Doctor Who fan.
This is a picture round. So what's the connection between these four pictures?
Okay, so we have a magic mirror, the actor Kevin Eldon, an abandoned shack or chalet, and a frog on a chair. This one. Ooh, not Victoria. Is it the Doctor Who story, It Takes You Away? Because I think that's what it might be.
Well done, that's the right answer.
Are you intrigued? If not, I won't bother watching any further, it doesn't get any better. If you are, then welcome to another exciting episode of Ed Watkinson's Orbit of Eccentricity. Roll credits. So, It Takes You Away. Oh, that's the one with the frog on the chair. Well, yeah, of course it is. But it's so much more. In fact, I would say it's probably my favourite episode of Doctor Who since 2007's Human Nature Family of Blood. It's not like any other Doctor Who story, it's unique. I mean, it's unique in the same way as Mind Robber, The Deadly Assassin, Love and Monsters. It's that sort of different Doctor Who story that the series throws up once in a while. I think they call them oddball or something along those lines. So it starts off in Norway. The Doctor and her friends have arrived there. Don't think a Doctor Who story's been set in Norway before. And the Doctor sees a sheep and starts to worry that they've landed in the middle of the Woolly Rebellion. But what's the Woolly Rebellion? Well, let me tell you. It was a violent renegotiation of the Human-Sheep Agreement. Apparently, it was going to take place in about 2211. But what exactly was the Woolly Rebellion, I hear you ask? Are you asking? You are. Wonderful. Well, it's that season 17 story, isn't it? You know the one. You must do. No? You know, where Missy has been made Minister of Agriculture in Norway and is trying to create human-sheep hybrids, so humans are more sort of malleable and more controllable, but it all goes wrong, and her assistant, Mutton Chops, played by Sir Brian Blessed, becomes leader of the human-sheep hybrids and instigates the Woolly Rebellion? No? And then Missy gets put in prison and she calls out a distress call for the Doctor for help, and the wrong Doctor turns up. It's season 17 Tom. No, still not ringing any bells? Okay. And basically, to preserve the timelines, Missy has to pretend to be a future incarnation of Romana. There's levels of coincidence, mistaken identity that would make Shakespeare blush, and Sir Brian plays Mutton Chops in a way that makes Solveig seem subtle. Not ringing any bells. I'm sure there's a trailer for it. In fact, there is. Have a look at this. So there you go, there's the Woolly Rebellion. Unfortunately, another episode that solely exists inside my head. But doesn't it look fun? So, on to the story itself. As I said, it's my favourite episode since 2007. It's not like any other Doctor Who story in the whole 58 years it's been on. It's completely unique. And at the heart of it, it's an examination of the destructive nature of grief. Doesn't sound like much fun, does it? And it's not But it goes really to the heart of that, and it's a story told in 4 parts, or Pretentious Old Me will call them movements. So let's have the first movement, and the first movement is called Deconstruction. I've called the first movement Deconstruction because this story sort of deconstructs what you expect a Doctor Who story to be and puts it together into something very, very different. They're in Norway, they find a chalet. It's all boarded up. It's a very triangular building with lots of sort of triangles on the inside, more of that later. And inside they realise that there's someone there. It's a little girl called Hannah, and Hannah is on her own and she's blind. She's also lost her father, and she thinks her father is taken away by the monsters that plague the house, and that's why she's been boarded up inside. She says the monsters come at the same time every single day. So far, so Doctor Who. It's got the classic base under siege. It's got the most frightening thing in the world being the horrors of a child that we've had for years from Moffat. But this is very, very, very different, and it does subvert the genre. The direction plays your expectations as well. Lots of wide shots, lots of sort of impressions of our heroes being watched. And then the roaring starts inside the house and the monsters are coming. But Graham and Ryan have gone to investigate the rest of the house, and they find something very, very strange. They find a mirror that has no reflection, and it seems to have a strange attraction for Graham, who is drawn towards it. Saved by the Doctor sonics it and makes it into a mirror again, but she starts to get very, very worried. Now, as I said, there are a lot of triangles in the house, and this is like a 3-sided story. There's Hannah, who's left on her own. There's a mother who we found out has died, and there's a father who is now missing, and she thinks the monsters have taken him away, hence the name It Takes You Away. But there's also, later on in the story, we find that there is this world, there's the anti-zone, which is the path between worlds, and there's the mirror world as well. So triangle motifs, very, very interesting. And the mirror is only the start of this story getting very, very different. Because a Doctor Who story, no matter how different, how experimental, how oddball it is, wouldn't be a Doctor Who story without monsters, which leads us on to the second movement, Contains Mild Peril. Doctor, Yaz and Graham go through the mirror into the anti-zone, and it's in this anti-zone, this sort of cave system, that they meet the aforementioned Mild Peril in the form of Ribbons, played by the actor Kevin Eldon. He serves as a sort of Gollum, Smeagol-esque sort of character, and his main function is to get them from one part of the story to another and provide the aforementioned Mild Peril. At the same time, Ryan's been left behind in the house to look after Hannah. The Doctor has written some instructions on the wall for what he needs to do and told Hannah it's a map. Ryan goes outside to investigate, and he finds the monsters aren't really the monsters that Hannah thinks they are. It's a recording. She's been kept in a boarded up house with recordings of monsters to keep her there. Why would anyone do that? Could it be a father? Could it be somebody else? We don't know at the moment. But the Doctor and her friends go to the end of the anti-zone and into the third part of the story, or into the maelstrom. That is even worse. While all this is happening, Hannah has knocked out Ryan with a door and entered the mirror herself. Mild Peril beckons. So, with all the main characters in Mild Peril, it's time to begin the third movement, in the heart of the maelstrom. The section that really gets to the heart of the story. The Doctor, Yaz and Graham emerge from the other side of the mirror into a mirror image copy of the house they've come from. In that house, they meet Eric, Hannah's father. He's wearing a Slayer t-shirt, but it's reversed, sort of giving us the impression that, yes, this is a mirror world, but also the band Slayer, they're sort of famed for their demonic, satanic albums called South of Heaven, Hell Awaits, Seasons in the Abyss. And this is sort of symbolic of what's happening to Eric. This is a man absolutely destroyed by grief. His daughter says to him later on that you've been ill for a while. And then we see the reason why a man will board up his home and pretend there are monsters out there to keep his daughter there. It's because on the other side of the mirror, his wife is seemingly alive. This is an all-consuming, completely destructive grief that Eric is suffering. A grief that will make a man just abandon his daughter just to have a life with a woman he loved, and he just hasn't moved on. I'm sure in his heart of hearts, Eric knows that Trina, or the lady looking like Trina that he's with, can't be real. That he's living in a dream, that he's living in a fairy story. But he's in such a bad place that he's willing to take a gamble on it, and he's willing to put his daughter in that much danger to take a gamble on maybe having the woman he loved most in the whole wide world back. And then there's Graham. Graham's lost Grace. And Grace, or something that looks and sounds and feels like Grace, is here on the other side of the mirror. Graham lost Grace in the most tragic of circumstances. Graham is moving on and building some sort of life, honouring her memory with his travels. He even says to the person that may or may not be Grace, I met Rosa Parks. He wants to share it with her. He's building a life with the Doctor and Yaz and Ryan. But then this bombshell happens. She can't be real. So many emotions are stirred up. Graham wants to believe that the lady there really is Grace and really is real. She knows what the necklace he's wearing is. She knows that the frog necklace was the same one that Ryan bought for her that Christmas because they didn't sync up Christmas lists and they both bought her a frog necklace. She's that convincing. She remembers dying on the crane. She remembers everything. Graham's completely shaken. But it's not real, it can't be real. And it isn't real. It's actually a sentient universe the Doctor knows of called the Solitract, which isn't compatible with our universe. It's lonely. It wants people to be with. And it's obviously picked up on Eric's grief. Now, Hannah's made it through the mirror. And when Eric introduces, this is your mother, Trina, Hannah knows instinctively that it's not. And that's where the seeds of doubt sort of come into the characters' minds. One by one, the Solitract expels everyone from the universe. It's heartbreaking for Graham because he has to lose Grace again. And he says, you were almost there, you were almost there. But the Solitract was selfish and wanted to keep Graham and wanted to leave Ryan in peril, so he knows it's not his Grace. The Doctor in the end gets the Solitract to expel Eric because Eric is short-lived and the Doctor has lived basically forever. And then we get to the catharsis. And if you don't think it's been an odd, strange, bizarre story so far, you ain't seen nothing yet. Because the Solitract personifies for the Doctor as a frog on a chair that sounds like Grace. Isn't that absolutely wonderful? I know a lot of people don't like it and a lot of people don't get it and a lot of people think it should have been someone important to the Doctor like River or Susan or Rose. But a frog on a chair. Just when you think Doctor Who can't get any more wonderful, it throws that at you. And you know, to get a bit more in-depth information about the Solitract, I'm going to have an interview now with the actual Solitract. It's not the actual Solitract. Hello. Why is there a frog in here? Oh, I know you. You're the actual Solitract from Doctor Who, aren't you? I've always wanted to meet you. Hello, actual Solitract, how are you?
I am well.
Well, that's good to hear. Do you know, I prepared some questions just in case something like this happened. So the first thing, why did you manifest as a frog for the Doctor? Why not say River, Rose, Susan?
There are two answers. Perhaps the actors weren't available. And two, this is a form that delights me, as it once did Miss Piggy.
Oh, that's interesting. And the second question, really, why a frog on a chair at all? You could have been anything.
Would you rather flashing lights and the voice of God, as voiced by Sir Brian Blessed?
No, a frog on a chair, I think, is much better.
Look, if David Lynch can represent David Bowie as a kettle, this should be no problem.
I think you've got a point there. So, you're the Solitract, the actual Solitract, or maybe I'm dreaming. Why do you look like a frog on a chair to me? That sounds like my wife.
Have you seen your Twitter header?
Well, yeah, that's fair enough, actually. And the last question, really, I've got for you is, are you actually a sentient universe, or are you just a really unconvincing frog on a chair?
Can't I be both?
Oh, in a universe of infinite possibilities, you could be anything. Do you know what, the actual Solitract? You are the maddest, most beautiful thing I've ever experienced, and I haven't even scratched the surface.
Thank you. That's nice.
Thank you, the actual Solitract. Bye now.
Ta-ta.
So there you have it. It Takes You Away. A story that on the surface is about a base under siege and a frog on a chair, but it's actually a story about loss and redemption. The Doctor has made a friend with the Solitract and has lost it. Hannah has been reunited with her father, who can now begin to rebuild his life and move on from his all-consuming grief. Graham and Ryan have realised how much they need each other, and it's still 122 years to the Woolly Rebellion. If you enjoyed this, then please click like and subscribe and share. I'd be really, really grateful. And unfortunately for you, there'll be another video along soon. Thanks, guys.